Good evening, everyone. The room is open. We're just going to let people get into the webinar room here, and we'll be starting in about 1 minute. So get yourself comfortable, cup of tea, cup of water, and we'll be starting here shortly. Thank you. All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this wellness talk about gut health and 3 kitchen rituals to feed your brain. Tonight, Orsha Magyar will help you discover how 3 simple nutrition habits can improve your overall mental health and physical health and set you up for a better brain as you age. My name is Haley, and I'm with our corporate events program here at Nature's Fair Market. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Botanica, who has partnered with us on this event. The presentation will be about 45 minutes long. We are recording it, and we save it and upload it to YouTube tomorrow. So if you want to share it with friends or watch some pieces again, it will be available. You can put your questions into the chat box, and myself and our colleague Jennifer from Botanica will be helping answer them. And if we can't get to them right away, we will be flagging them for the Q&A to talk about with Orsha at the end. Now, before I hand over the presentation, I'll give you a bit of a background on our speaker. She's a neuroscientist certified in holistic nutrition who is passionate about helping people improve the brain and mental health in the kitchen. As a founder and CEO of Neurotrition, Orsha and her team of neuroscientists, nutritionists, and chefs bring neuroscience and nutrition together at the table in the name of well-being. We heard this talk in our store back in October, and people were so excited about what she is bringing to teach you tonight. I was so excited, and I'm honestly looking forward to sitting here and relearning and re-listening because there's always going to be a new takeaway. So thank you, Orsha, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for spending your evening with me tonight. I hope that you learn a lot about a topic that is incredibly exciting for me to teach about. Thank you, Haley, and thank you, Nature's Fair, for bringing me in person and now bringing me back online. And thank you to Botanica as well, and Jennifer from Botanica, who's making tonight possible. So the gut-brain connection is something that I've been teaching about for quite a few years. I think that the relationship between our brain and our gut and the microbiome and the communication between these 2 parts of the body is, number one, undeniable. So when people sometimes still tell me, like, really, are the gut and the brain connected? I'm here to share with you tonight, they absolutely are. And more so, what that means for our overall brain health, our mental health, our immune health. It's just a really, really fascinating topic. So let's begin. Even though I've been talking about this concept of the gut-brain axis, as we call it in medicine, for a number of years, I am relatively quite new to it. And, being trained as a neuroscientist, I come from UBC. I live in Calgary now and brought the business out here. But being trained formally in neuroscience, I thought I had it all figured out about the brain. And it included this much: 0 about the gut. I spent 13 plus years in academics doing my undergrad and then graduate degree in neuroscience through the Department of Psychiatry at UBC. And I know a lot about neurological disease. I know a lot about psychiatric disorders, but I never once heard that the gut could be involved. So there's that. I want to be fully transparent. It was a hugely humbling moment for me, not only professionally, but personally, as someone who was really, really proud of knowing a lot about the brain. And so, when we look through one very specific lens, for me, looking at neurological health and mental health through the lens of Western medicine, I thought for many, many years that the only way we could treat brain disease and mental health issues was through medication. So don't blame me. I have come a long way since then. I started to do my own research when I was still in neuroscience, in the Western medical side of things, into what else could possibly help people's brain health. And I stumbled across, in my own research, nutrition. And I thought, that's wild, because in addition to not learning anything about the gut as having a role in brain and mental health, I also learned nothing about the role of nutrition in brain and mental health. So that was after probably 12 years into my journey into the more allopathic Western medical side of things and studying the brain. And I thought, this is cool. This has legs. And especially for me, where I've taken my career into more personalized or integrative medicine, I thought, for many patients, there's got to be something more than just meds, or even if they are on meds, maybe there's got to be something we can add on. So I went back to school. I left academics. I got certified in holistic nutrition and created this little company called Neurotrition, which literally stands for neuroscience and nutrition. So it's been incredibly humbling. But now I work with nutrition every single day, addressing our patients' brain and mental health concerns. And I work with the gut every single day. Today's topics are going to include a little bit about what exactly is the gut and the brain connection, and how are these two parts of our body talking to one another. We're going to touch on probiotics, but for me, my motto is always going beyond the Band-Aid, ripping that thing off and going beyond the Band-Aid for people's brain and mental health. So I want to teach you new things tonight. I want to go beyond probiotics. So please come on this journey with me. We're going to learn about putting out the brain's inflammation fire. We're going to learn about building up your neurotransmitters, which you may have heard the gut plays a huge role in making. And we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness as well. The gut and the brain connection for me are a big, big area of interest and passion, because they are intimately involved in every condition that is currently being researched in neurological and mental health. And also anecdotally, the patients, the people that I see, we work with both adults and kids at Neurotrition. And from a neurological perspective, we work a lot with things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, epilepsy. I work a lot with TBI. I'll talk about that later tonight, which stands for traumatic brain injury, like post-concussion syndrome and things like that. I work a lot with migraine, and science tells us that the gut microbiome and its communication with the brain and nervous system play a role in recovery from and managing progression of these conditions. Jumping over onto the mental health side of things, I work a lot with depression, anxiety, fatigue, low energy, sleep disorders, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. And again, research tells us that there is a strong, significant role of the gut-brain connection in these mental health concerns as well. So what is that connection? Next time someone asks you at a party, you will be able to answer. So far, science has kind of elucidated 5 different ways that we know and evidence shows us that the gut and the brain talk to one another. The first one is through something called the vagus nerve. You might have heard of it. It's trickling down from scientific world into mainstream media, which I'm really happy about. The vagus nerve comes from the word Latin. Vagus means wanderer, and it starts in the base of your brain and it goes down through your throat. That's why things like gargling or singing or humming, it is true. What the media says, science backs it, can activate the vagus nerve. And it meanders through the body and ends in the gut. And so when I'm teaching about the vagus nerve, I always teach about it in the way that it's kind of the literal manifestation of the gut-brain connection. It physically connects the two. Gut hormone signaling. We'll talk about this in a lot more detail later on in tonight's talk, but the gut makes important neurotransmitters or hormones like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, acetylcholine, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. So stay tuned. We'll talk about some really fun science later on about that. The gut and the brain also love to talk to one another through our immune system. there's actually something called the gut-brain immune axis, which is not the topic of tonight's conversation, but you're welcome to ask me questions about later or reach out to me personally. But there's a big immune system component as well. And research shows us that different types of gut bugs residing at this moment in your very own microbiome have the ability to either improve your immunity or promote inflammation and suppress your immunity. So one great side effect of building a healthy gut microbiome is building healthy brain and mental health, but also optimizing your immune function, which coming into this time of year is always a hot topic. Tryptophan metabolism. Tryptophan is an amino acid, and it is the building block of the neurotransmitter serotonin and the hormone melatonin, which is our sleepy time molecule. So the gut makes a ton of it. And last but not least, but probably my favorite way that the gut and the brain love to talk to one another is through these microbial metabolites called short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are something that I care deeply about because they're being shown now in research to help regulate things like our appetite. So what that means is rather than things like counting calories, I never believed in that stuff, even before I went holistic, might I add, or depriving yourself and going on diets. They don't work. What scientists are starting to look at and suggest may actually work is altering the composition of your gut microbiome to one that makes more of these healthy short-chain fatty acids that actually tell our brain that we're full and we can put the fork down and we can walk away and not get seconds, thirds, or fourths. Versus if your gut microbiome is imbalanced and you have more unhealthy bugs in your intestinal tract, they make short-chain fatty acids that tell you you're hungry all the time. So that's more so, I think, a much more holistic and I think accurate way to address things like weight rather than, deprivation and calorie counting, which don't work. The communication between the gut and the brain is a two-way street, or bidirectional is how we say that, two-way street in medicine. And, it works both ways. A sick intestine is sending messages to the brain. You've probably all heard of irritable bowel syndrome. You may not have heard of irritable brain syndrome. Its counterpart. A lot of my clients, before they flare up in their intestinal tract, they note symptoms of anxiety or depression. And when I look into literature, it actually kind of gives me proof of that because it says that almost 50% of people with irritable bowel syndrome have anxiety. And over 80% of people with IBS have depression. So very connected, the gut and the brain. Talking about it from the flip side, because it's a two-way street, I work a lot with Parkinson's disease. One of the most common first symptoms, but one that most people have no idea about with Parkinson's disease, is not neurological at all. It is chronic constipation. 10, 20, 25 years of chronic, untreated, unaddressed constipation is the biggest risk factor of Parkinson's disease. So again, the gut is telling you something is wrong and something is brewing on the neurological side of things because it's such a two-way street. The gut microbiome does a lot for us. It helps our metabolism, so things like weight maintenance and weight loss or weight gain if we need that. Helps maintain the structural integrity of the gut mucosal barrier, keeps bad stuff out, lets good stuff in. Helps digest and break down our food. Makes things for us like B vitamins. Teaches our immune system how to kind of identify what is part of our body and what is a foreigner. This is something that scientists are starting to point out maybe as something going on when people get multiple sclerosis, another nervous system disorder that I work with at Neurotrition, when the body gets confused and it attacks its own brain. So that is something that we don't know why. The body and the brain get confused at the immune system level, and they think that in multiple sclerosis, that saran wrapper kind of going around your brain cells, it's part of you. But in MS, the immune system thinks that it's a foreigner and it attacks it. And in part, the gut microbiome is being shown to have a role in that. The gut can make anti-inflammatory compounds, improves our elimination and motility, gut motility. And of course, it forms half of the very important gut-brain axis. Probiotics, I know you've all heard about them before, so we won't spend too much time on them because I want to go beyond them tonight. But here's my list of my favorite probiotics, and we recommend to our clients to eat as many of these as possible every day. Start slow. right? If you're new to probiotics, pick something off this list, have it once a day, and then build up. As a novice probiotic eater, you can have one of these at every meal, and you can even go up from there. A few things to note that you might not be aware of on this list. Yogurt, please make sure that it is plain. It doesn't matter what's on the front of a label. In Canada, the front of any label is unregulated, which means that on your yogurt, it can say that beautiful key lime, which I love, but I know it's not good for me, is full of probiotics. But in reality, when scientists go and check the probiotic content of those flavored, pre-sweetened yogurts, it's usually significantly less than what is legally allowed to be put on the label, because those probiotics have feasted on the sugars and lived their best life and are no longer alive or viable by the time you eat them. So your yogurt does need to start off being plain when you buy it. And if you need to add sweetener, go for it. But make sure you're eating those probiotics alive in your yogurt. And the other thing that's important to note, because I'm seeing a lot of this recently and it's not making me feel too happy, is sourdough bread. It's very trendy, right? Since the pandemic, I think I'm all for making your own. But if you're going to buy your sourdough, please make sure it is real. The way that to know it is real is you can ask a bakery, are they using active cultures? If you don't have access to talk to the bakery and the bakers, when you're buying it, read the label. It should say something along the lines of active culture, or maybe it'll actually say the long name of the culture. For example, Lactobacillus acidophilus. It'll say that name. What you don't want it to say is sourdough flavor. I'm seeing it on a lot of sourdough breads, and those don't have any probiotics in them. So now let's start to move a little bit deeper, right? I want to give you guys some good new science and new knowledge to walk away from at tonight's workshop. Science loves probiotics, but over the last 3-4 years, I'm starting to see it taking a bit of a shift and almost saying that while probiotics are great and we should eat these probiotic rich foods, and maybe if we need, we should take some good quality probiotic supplements, maybe what's really important for gut brain health is to almost take a step back and kind of try to feed your healthy gut bugs what they want to eat. And so there's a special name for this, and you might have heard of it. It's called prebiotics. These prebiotics are the favorite food of your happy, healthy gut microbes. It's what they want to eat to proliferate and to improve your gut health and your immune health and your brain and mental health. Prebiotics, in fact, are a very special type of fiber called a resistant starch. Not all fiber is a prebiotic. Prebiotics have become very trendy. And so a lot of, again, labels, you can put whatever you want on the front of a food or beverage label in Canada, are starting to say prebiotic. But in actuality, to be called a prebiotic, you have to go through and meet 3 very important criteria, such as you need to be able to, when you eat it, go through most of your gastrointestinal tract largely intact, not digested. You must make it pretty undigested to your intestines, and then you must be eaten by or fermented by your healthy gut microbes, and then stimulate those healthy gut microbes to improve your health. So not everything that is being called a prebiotic, unfortunately, is one. However, these ones have all been studied and are all shown to be real prebiotics. These are things like, sweet potatoes, kale. I've listed some of my favorites, and you can lump them into kind of larger categories. You see some whole grains, you see vegetables. Some of them so far have only been studied to be prebiotic when they're raw. Some of them, when they're cooked, they lose this ability. Some of them just haven't been studied yet cooked, so to be determined. And then one of my favorite things on this chart is that a lot of the medicinal mushrooms that I'm learning more about and getting really excited by are also shown to be really high in these prebiotic fibers. So they're an excellent gut-brain food for that reason as well. The best way when you're busy to get prebiotics is through greens. So I end up putting a lot of clients on a greens powder, a green supplement. And there's so many to choose from on the market. And one of my favorites that I use myself for my family, and we put a lot of our clients on, is actually one by Botanica, and it's called Perfect Greens. And my favorite one in this lineup is the unflavored, but you can also get one that is chocolate. You can get one that's tropical fruit or berry. I'm really basic. I like the unflavored the best. And there's a few unique things about Botanica's Perfect Greens, I think, that make it stand out from a lot of the other ones on the market. I like that they start with gluten-free grasses. They start with oatgrass, wheatgrass, barley grass, all certified gluten-free. As well as they add some parsley and they add a ton of spinach. I swear you could not eat, I even could not, and I do this for work, eat as much spinach as they manage to put into a serving of these greens. The other thing that I love about this product in particular is because I work a lot with neurological disease, the algae, the blue-green algae like chlorella and spirulina are starting to get a lot of attention at slowing down progression, for example, of things like Parkinson's disease. So for many of my clients, when I'm recommending a greens powder, I want to make sure that there's some chlorella or spirulina in there. And this product adds both. And then to make things even better, and I think easier for us, is in addition to greens, Botanica puts a lot of superfoods in there as well. They've got acerola cherry, blueberry, acai berry, apple, green tea extract. And so again, just making it even more full of not only prebiotics, these fibers that are coming from all these beautiful foods, but many other phyto or plant nutrients. I like that they don't add much heat to this product. So they very carefully and at very, very ridiculously low temperatures dry the product. So the nutritional profile maintains at almost 100%. So that's something really good to love about it. The other thing, there's a lot to love about this product, but last but not least, I like this in contrast to a lot of other greens out there, because not only is it sugar-free, a lot of greens powders are, we know sugar is bad for the gut and bad for the brain, but a lot of the other greens still have some artificial sweeteners like stevia. I wrote a blog on our website, neurotrition.ca, all about what artificial sweeteners are doing to our gut, and it's not good. So I really like that Botanica has taken stevia out as well. And spirulina, a little bit more to know and love about this blue-green algae. It's shown now to be neuroprotective. It's being shown in clinical, so human studies, which is really nice, are suggesting a neuroprotective role. It's shown to enhance brain development in children, motor skills, language skills. It's shown to improve mental and physical fatigue. And then a few other fun, interesting things to note about spirulina. It's been shown to help reduce high blood pressure, reduce high cholesterol. It's been shown in a few studies to help people manage and lose weight. It's shown to help improve anemia, which is something that I personally struggle with. It's shown to increase red blood cells' ability to carry hemoglobin. So that's something really cool. As a side note, that's going to improve your brain and mental health if you're not chronically fatigued and feeling that pressure of being anemic, as well as it's a really high source of tryptophan, that amino acid that builds serotonin and melatonin to help your mood and help you sleep. And of course, spirulina is chock full, has been shown to be a real bona fide prebiotic. Next, going beyond probiotics and helping rip off that Band-Aid for brain gut axis health is putting out the fire. What I mean by this is, again, something that's newer to the research world and very new to mainstream and the public, is this concept that the brain has its own immune system. This was only discovered not many years ago. And what that means is the brain has its own immune system, so it's also capable of building its own inflammation. We didn't know that until very recently. Currently, every neurological disease being studied by scientists around the world and every mental health condition being studied has shown some part of inflammation. In the brain, we call inflammation neuroinflammation. The best example I can give you, real life example of neuroinflammation, is in the case of TBI, or traumatic brain injury. When you get a concussion and your brain gets bumped, what happens is a tiny little blip of neuroinflammation. If that is not treated and that is not calmed down or put out, unfortunately, it spreads. And if you have another concussion, it spreads again. And you may have heard that after 3 concussions, they may not really want you or your kid to play sports anymore, because after 3 concussions, that neuroinflammation has spread so much that it's now shown to be a risk factor for getting dementia and Alzheimer's disease later in life. So that is kind of a very real world, quite scary, but true example of what neuroinflammation can do. So I work really hard with my clients and with myself too, because I've had a few concussions. So I'm one of those people who are at risk. So it's really personal for me. I work really hard to try and put out this neuroinflammatory fire. But I just want to say that in a short-term or acute sense of the word, inflammation and neuroinflammation are good. For example, if you have a fever, you might have heard of breaking the fever, right? So sometimes you can let your fever rise and break and kill the pathogen or microbe, and then you recover. So that's a really good example of how in a short term, launching an inflammatory response, we call it the inflammatory cascade, can be really positive, right? Other signs and symptoms of short-term beneficial inflammation include swelling of an injured site, a little bit of redness, bringing nutrients and oxygen and blood to that injured site, redness, heat. Those are good if they only last for a short amount of time. Chronic long-term inflammation in the body and neuroinflammation in the brain, those are what start to build the risk and increase the chances of getting neurodegenerative disease. The gut can either feed inflammation or it can help to heal neuroinflammation. And it can do that through a number of different things that scientists are hard at work figuring out. It can do it through making these short-chain fatty acids. So I talked about the short-chain fatty acids earlier with respect to helping you with your weight and helping you with your appetite and becoming a more mindful eater, right? And understanding when you're hungry or when you're full. These short-chain fatty acids do a lot of other things too. And one thing they are being shown to do is if you have a healthy gut microbiome, and you do have neuroinflammation, let's say you get a concussion or you have a stroke, which is something I work with as well, they can help heal the neuroinflammation and help you heal from your concussion or recover from your stroke symptoms. The gut can also control how much tryptophan you make. Tryptophan will build serotonin. It'll build melatonin to help you sleep. And sleep is critical for calming neuroinflammation. And sadly, everyone I talk to who has a concussion or who has a neurological disease, it's the biggest thing that everyone I can lump into a bucket reports is they're not sleeping, even though sleep is going to be the best thing to help restore and optimize and regain their brain health. The gut can alter vagal nerve activation. If it's healthy, it can activate it in a good way. And also by inhibiting or increasing production of a protein called beta amyloid. Beta amyloid is the protein in the brain associated with Alzheimer's disease. If our gut microbiome is healthy, scientists are showing us now that it can help reduce this beta amyloid in the brain. And if it's unhealthy, unfortunately, it is increasing the production of this beta amyloid in the brain. So another distinct concrete example of the connection between the gut and the brain is through this beta amyloid and Alzheimer's disease story. One way that we can heal the gut through nutrition, which is my forte, and supplementation as well, is through an anti-neuroinflammatory diet. So what we want to do kind of at the same time is help reduce and remove things that contribute to neuroinflammation while we give the brain lots of anti-inflammatory nutrients. So things like cutting out things that you might be intolerant to. When we're sensitive or allergic to something and we continue to consume it, it's shown to build this neuroinflammation. So gluten is a really common one. Dairy is another big one that I work with clients. I would say these days even more than removing gluten. I'm working a lot on dairy elimination with our neurological disease clients. Avoiding sugar, obviously, and other sweeteners, including artificial sweeteners, and then doing your best to start reducing and eliminating processed, refined foods. Now, at the same time as you're doing this, what are we building up to heal the brain and put out that fire? Omega-3s, tons of antioxidants, calming minerals like magnesium, zinc, and potassium through whole food sources, or if you want to supplement, a good quality supplement, lots of water, fiber, especially those prebiotic fibers on an earlier slide. And I would say the greens powder once a day would be a really great addition into this program. One of my favorite and most well-studied brain superfoods is turmeric. You've all heard of it. Curcumin is its active compound. It's shown to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is actually really important because many things, unfortunately, that are being touted as health foods or even brain foods, when scientists look at them, they actually don't cross the blood-brain barrier. So it's important. When I find something that does, I like to tell people. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. It's been studied with regards to Alzheimer's disease and shown to improve cognition in patients with Alzheimer's. It's shown to boost brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a mouthful, but all you need to know about this is it's a compound in the brain that helps to grow new neurons and tell them kind of what their job is going to be in brain and mental health. So turmeric can do that. It's been studied as an antidepressant, which is really nice. And it's been shown in healthy individuals as well to improve attention span and memory. And then a classic that I love, but is now evidence-based, which I really, really love, is ashwagandha. Kind of your classic calming adaptogenic herb. Is traditionally being used in cases of nervous exhaustion and chronic or long-term stress. In people, it's a nervine, which means it helps the nerves and it helps reduce anxiety, fatigue, cloudy or foggy thinking. A lot of people have brain fog. We try them on ashwagandha. And it can be really helpful. And it's really important for reducing insomnia if it's due to stress. So if you're not sleeping well at night and you think that the reason behind it is you're just so stressed out, ashwagandha could be really effective for you. It's shown to support healthy libido and improve low thyroid function. And new research is showing that some of the way that ashwagandha can actually work for you is by inhibiting the production of this beta amyloid, linked to Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and reducing neuroinflammatory molecules in the brain as well, such as NF-κB. So there are two products here that if you're interested in calming the inflammatory fire in the brain, let's say you're coming off of a traumatic brain injury, you've had a stroke, you have depression or one of these conditions that has neuroinflammation as a big part of it, I would put you on one of Botanica's super concentrated liquid capsules. The ones for tonight that I wanted to showcase with this story are turmeric and ashwagandha. And I know there's a lot of products on the market selling turmeric and ashwagandha, so I just wanted to point out a few key features about these two that if you're shopping around, I want you to remember from tonight's talk and make sure that they have these things if you're going to buy them. With turmeric, what you need to know is it needs to be whole root, because while we know that curcumin is really good for you, we now know newer research is telling us that in addition to curcumin, you need a whole family of these compounds called curcuminoids. And so curcumin is not just enough anymore in a turmeric supplement. You need it to have curcuminoids. So read your label. Curcuminoids is the first thing to look out for. The second thing you need to make sure is included in a turmeric supplement is piperine, or black pepper. Piperine is the active compound in black pepper, and it's shown to increase the bioavailability of the curcuminoids by up to 150%. So don't buy a turmeric supplement that doesn't have piperine or black pepper in it. And last but not least is something called turmerones. This is newer in the research, but nonetheless, I think it's really cool. And Botanica's liquid capsules do this really special extraction process whereby they're able to take out these turmerones from the whole root turmeric. Turmerones are fat soluble, which is important because curcumin and the curcuminoids love to live inside fat, to be sucked up and utilized by the body. So having these turmerones in this product increases the absorption rate of the curcumin and the curcuminoid. So not many supplements have turmerones in it yet, and I love that Botanica's does, because it's just making sure you're getting all the curcumin and the curcuminoids on the label in this product. And then moving over to the ashwagandha, a couple things to note here. There's a compound in ashwagandha called triethylene glycol, and this is what research has kind of pinpointed as the magic in ashwagandha, found in the leaf of it, that helps to reduce insomnia, specifically stress-induced insomnia. So triethylene glycol, I would say if you're buying an ashwagandha supplement, look on the label and make sure that word is on there. That's going to be important if you're trying to use ashwagandha to improve your sleep. And then the other thing that is here on the label is called an ashwagandha with analytes, Withanolides are anti-inflammatory and anti-neuroinflammatory. And so they're a part of ashwagandha as well. But what's really critical with them is the percentage of withanolides found in an ashwagandha product. So the sweet spot appears to be about 5 to 10% withanolides in any ashwagandha supplement. Anything below 2.5% is not going to work. Anything above 10%, certainly above 25%, like some companies selling ashwagandha have these ridiculous high percentages of withanolides, is also not going to be good for your health. So you need about 5 to 10%. And Botanica's ashwagandha gives you 5% withanolides. So very well within the healthy, good amount. Almost last but not least, my favorite is neurotransmitters. I spent my entire master's degree at UBC studying one neurotransmitter. I love them all, but my favorite's got to be dopamine. And that's what I spent 3 years studying. This is a really cool picture here looking at a presynaptic and a postsynaptic neuron. So 2 neurons, 2 brain cells. And inside there, those neon really cool dots there are neurotransmitters. And this is called the synapse, that gap between your neurons. And this is where all the magic happens. For example, if you are prescribed and take medications. Medications work in the synapse. For example, SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That's what that SSRI stands for. They work by keeping serotonin, as those neon circles, active for a longer period of time to control your depression and manage those signs and symptoms of your mental health or mood disorder. Certain supplements and even certain foods can play with these neurotransmitters and keep them active for longer in the synapse. And newer research is showing that the gut microbes can also not only make neurotransmitters, but keep them swirling around for a longer time in the synapse, which to me is incredibly exciting because I'm starting to look at things like, the gut microbiome as possibly in the future one day almost being like the next antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, right? If we can figure out exactly which strains, which species, we're not there yet, but scientists are hard at work looking at which ones are involved in different disorders. So cute little picture, your gut and your mood, very, very connected, right? And so the gut microbes, the good ones, are shown to produce so many neurotransmitters, including GABA, which stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA is our primary anti-anxiety or inhibitory or calming neurotransmitter. And we're starting to see that certain strains of gut microbes can actually increase GABA for us in our gut and in our brain, causing feelings of calmness and a sense of relaxation. They can also make serotonin. You've probably heard that. Dopamine, noradrenaline, also called norepinephrine, like an EpiPen you've probably heard of. Noradrenaline and adrenaline are other neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter related to memory. Acetylcholine is the one that in patients who have dementia disorders, acetylcholine goes away. And then melatonin is our sleep neurotransmitter or our sleep hormone. A little bit more, because I'm fascinated by this stuff, and I hope you are too, on some of my favorite neurotransmitters. There's GABA. It also contributes to motor control. So this is a really important one with movement disorders as well, like in Parkinson's disease. Serotonin, you probably heard, and it is true. 90% is produced in the gut. So going back to my first slide of how humbling this journey has been for me professionally and personally, like really getting knocked off kind of my high horse thinking I knew a lot about the brain and neurotransmitters. I mean, I thought I knew a lot about dopamine. I spent 3 years studying it, but I didn't know that over 50% of it is actually made in the gut and only half of it's made in the brain. So yeah, it's been a journey. Noradrenaline is shown to stimulate activity in the brain, boosting function of different cells to keep your brain and body running efficiently. So not many people know about adrenaline or noradrenaline as neurotransmitters, but they are in fact really important ones. And protein, I know most of you are not thinking about protein necessarily for the brain, right? We tend to think about protein for the muscles. If we're into fitness or working out or even bodybuilding or physique type fitness, we all need protein. But I want you to know, if you didn't already, that protein builds neurotransmitters, right? The basic building block of our neurotransmitters, which I always say are the language of the brain. So the serotonin, the GABA, the acetylcholine, these are built from protein. Because when you eat protein, it breaks down into amino acids, and then the amino acids build back up to build these beautiful neurotransmitters to regulate your brain and mental health, such as tryptophan. Tryptophan builds serotonin. Serotonin then converts to melatonin. Tyrosine is another amino acid you eat through eating protein foods. Tyrosine builds dopamine. Tyrosine also builds adrenaline or epinephrine and noradrenaline, also called norepinephrine. Histidine is an amino acid that builds your neurotransmitter histamine. Histamine allows you to have an immune reaction. For example, if you're allergic to peanuts or shellfish, histamine is going to tell you that very aggressively and in a very scary manner. So then you know you have to carry an EpiPen and do your best to avoid peanuts or shellfish or whatever you're allergic to. And arginine is an amino acid that builds nitric oxide, a neurotransmitter that helps to relax the blood vessels and improve circulation and heart health, which also affects your brain health as well. Another product that I really love that you can easily incorporate into your day-to-day is a protein powder. And again, there are too many on the market, and most of them I definitely would not endorse. I really like Botanica's because in my opinion, it's the cleanest one. Currently on the market, it gives you 20 grams of whole food plant-based protein. So let's break that down. I think it's important to get things from whole foods. Even though you're taking a supplement, I think it's important that it's coming from whole foods because science tells us, and anecdotally, I know that things work together in synergy. Things like to work together. So even though this is a protein powder, because it's coming from whole foods, you're still getting fiber, like prebiotic fiber. So you start to get more bang for your buck when your supplements come from whole foods. So in this, in addition to protein, you're getting fiber, including prebiotic fibers. You're getting some healthy fats. You're getting vitamins and minerals. So that's important. It's plant-based, which a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I want a plant-based protein. Is it good? This one is because it comes from 3 kind of strategically put together components: brown rice, quinoa, and coconut. Quinoa is already a complete protein, right? So it already gives you everything, including the branched chain aminos. But it is low in some of the aminos, right? Important that are needed for some of the neurotransmitters we're discussing tonight. So in addition to quinoa, this one has brown rice and coconut to give you higher levels of some of the amino acids. The quinoa is a little bit lower in. It's easy to digest. A lot of other brands out there, and I don't like to name other brands, but some of the other ones I used to work with and tried myself personally had pea isolate, and it made me and a lot of our clients gassy, bloated, and just uncomfortable. And it took a while to figure out, and science now is showing that a lot of people react adversely to pea isolate. So I'm no longer recommending proteins with that compound in it. Allergen friendly. Tastes good. You can get it in vanilla or you can get it in chocolate, and it's super, super easy to just add to water, or I like to put it into unsweetened oat milk. And then if you want to even elevate your protein with other herbs or vitamins and minerals or mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, you can try the Perfect Protein Elevated family. It gives you the same 20 grams of whole food plant-based proteins. But in addition, this one really you're getting a lot more bang for your buck, even because you're getting some vitamins, minerals, medicinal mushrooms, or herbs. So I've tried all of these and I recommend all of these to our clients. A few to really point out for tonight's conversation that I'm loving would be the anti-inflammatory. That's got the turmeric to reduce neuroinflammation, ginger, some really nice studies looking at ginger with brain and mental health and gut health as well, and moringa, which is a beautiful alkalizing herb. And then my other one that I love, and people are always so shocked because usually you take protein after your workout, so earlier in the day typically, but This protein at the bottom right here, called Sleep Better, I get people to take after dinner as their dessert or their kind of bedtime. Like you would have a warm glass of milk, you would have this Sleep Better protein. It's ridiculously high in something called tart cherry, which is shown to be a natural source of melatonin. And it's got some magnesium in there as well, and passion flower in addition to the protein. So this is a really nice one to help with sleep. And it also is a protein powder. Last but not least, in our final few minutes before we turn to questions, I wanted to touch on the importance of building a gentle and not time-consuming, easy. It needs to be easy, I think, to stay with it, mindfulness practice. There's so much research looking at the ability of mindfulness, even just like a basic, like 1 to 2 minute mindfulness meditation practice a day, to increase brain health. Mindfulness has been shown in a lot of studies, and I don't have time to go into it, but to literally almost like rewire the brain. For example, increase the connections to your prefrontal cortex. So one reason that mindfulness really helps us to like chill out and be able to think through a situation is it's boosting connections to that frontal lobe, that prefrontal cortex part of the brain. It's shown to increase connections to your hippocampus. That's your memory part. The hippocampus is what shrinks in people who have Alzheimer's and other dementia disorders. So mindfulness is shown to kind of keep that part of the brain nice and plump. And another really cool thing, because I spent a lot of time studying this in grad school, the amygdala, mindfulness is shown to actually lessen or kind of thin out the connections between the amygdala, which is where fear and stress live, lessen those connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So when you have a good mindfulness practice going on, the next time you're faced with something that's stressful or scary, you're less likely to react with fear, because those connections between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex are thinned out, and you're more likely to be able to stay calm and think through the stressor. The saying says, fight or flight versus rest and digest. Mindfulness is shown to put our body and our brain into the rest and digest to help the gut microbiome as well. A regular mindfulness practice has been shown to help people suffering from chronic illnesses, including chronic pain, which is nearly impossible to treat with meds, with food, with supplements. It's debilitating. Mindfulness is one thing that appears to tap into and help some chronic pain sufferers. It's shown to effectively treat many psychological and mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, and high stress, lower inflammation, including neuroinflammation, so help you recover from things that have caused neuroinflammation like a stroke or a brain injury. And new science is now telling us that it can directly help the gut as well. A handful of clinical trials have looked at people with Crohn's, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and told them to meditate for like 2 minutes a day. 2 weeks later, they're saying that they have less pain. They're saying that their quality of life is better. So subjectively, they're feeling great, which is good. And then objectively, when scientists take their blood work, they have lower inflammation markers in their blood, which is huge, coming from like a 2-minute mindfulness app a day. A couple of ways that you can get more mindful and meditate. If a Headspace app or that kind of thing isn't for you, you can try earthing, which is getting out in nature, taking off your shoes and socks and really pushing your feet and experiencing the earth. That is one form of mindfulness. Meditation, of course, yoga, yes, some deep breathing exercises, morning sunlight, walking in nature, laughter, and attitude of gratitude. A lot of science backing up, showing that people who have gratitude, who express gratitude, who live with this attitude of gratitude are just, happier in general. So this really works. Our takeaways from tonight's workshop that I hope you are able to glean from what I've taught you and think about is that the gut and the brain connection is, I think, undeniable. So don't let people tell you ever that they're not connected. And it's also a two-way street. What affects one is always going to affect the other. Sometimes people ask me, because there's over an 80% overlap between gut diseases and brain or mental health ones. And so most of my clients have both. And they often ask me, well, I don't even know what came first. And I don't know, right? I don't know. But what I can say is that they're always found in the same person. Is something going on with their gut and something going on with the brain and nervous system. A healthy, diverse microbiome is going to be critical. This is going to require probiotics, but I think hopefully I've shown you tonight a few areas that science is moving beyond probiotics. So we're talking about prebiotics. We're talking about putting out that neuroinflammatory fire in the brain. And we're talking about eating in a way or taking protein in a way that builds the language of the brain, which is your neurotransmitters. And of course, last but not least, figuring out something that works for you, that you're going to stick to, how to become a little bit more mindful. And with that, we are a couple minutes over. Thank you so very much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Orsha. That was wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for your engaging questions and for so many of you to be here to spend this time with us tonight. I think that we experience so much in our busy days, and so to spend an hour on yourself, you're like already on the right track. So thank you so much for being here. A few good questions I flagged. One from Pat about your thoughts on making your own turmeric paste and adding in pepper and fresh rhizomes. Any thoughts? It's a lot of effort. Good for you if you want to do that, Pat. What do you have to say, Orsha?
It is a lot of effort, and I think it's great because that if you were able to do it for yourself, you would hit everything that I taught you tonight to look for and what makes a good quality turmeric supplement. So if you're making your own paste, you're getting the whole root. You're going to get those turmerones, which most of the cheaper supplements are not extracting out of the whole root. And yeah, if you're adding the black pepper, heck yeah. So yes, it's more time consuming. It's going to be as good, if not even better, because it's going to be fresh than the supplements. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, great. Go for it, Pat. Clifford had asked, would a Mediterranean or whole food plant dominant or plant-based diet be useful in working towards building your gut-brain health?
Yes, that is such a good question. Yes, or statement. Absolutely. The most well-researched diet out there scientifically is the Mediterranean diet. It's shown to be excellent for the gut and excellent for the brain, right? It's got an abundance of that extra virgin olive oil, healthy, high omega-3 fish, whole grains. Yeah, you're hitting a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight. So if you're wanting to pursue any specific type of diet to build your gut brain health, I would definitely say Mediterranean would be a great one.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, really good.
Val asked us about the protein powders that you were talking about. Are there prebiotics included in those Perfect Protein tubs?
Yeah, so in Perfect Protein by Botanica, there are, because it's coming from brown rice, which has been shown to be a prebiotic, quinoa, and coconut. All of those are shown to be prebiotics. So because they're coming from literally just kind of crushed up and gently dried, those three foods, you're getting, in addition to the protein, you're getting the prebiotic fibers. So yeah, more bang for your buck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lana asked us about leaky gut. And can you speak to that a little bit in the context of this conversation?
Yes. So I always say leaky gut leads to leaky brain. And that's not scientific, but it's like cute. Do you know what I mean? People will remember. Yeah. So leaky gut has to do with undigested kind of protein chunks. That's not a very scientific word. I apologize. When you have healthy digestive health and everything's breaking down the way it should, when you eat a protein, it breaks down into individual amino acids. When you're not digesting your protein properly, your intestines end up absorbing these larger pieces of semi-digested protein. So that causes the pores in your intestinal mucosa to start spreading, or leaks starting to happen. So it's called leaky gut syndrome, or porous bowel syndrome is what we call it in medicine. And it means that now your intestinal tract is sucking through and absorbing these larger protein pieces. And with it, God knows what else, because now it's leaky. So other things are being pulled through. So this can cause things like adult onset allergies. Leaky gut syndrome is now known to be a risk factor for autoimmune disease, which can affect the gut anywhere in the body, nervous system, like multiple sclerosis, for example, and other brain autoimmune diseases. So yeah, leaky gut is really important in the context of the gut-brain axis.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, that's some good insight there. Lynn is asking about acid reflux. and how that can affect our gut health. Are they even connected?
Acid reflux is very connected because, yeah, we need stomach acid to break down protein. So if you're having acid reflux, sometimes people think, oh, I have too much acid and that's why I'm having reflux. A lot of people I see that have acid reflux, when we test them, they actually have too low stomach acid. So that spark plug is not going to be there, that stomach acid, to break down their protein. So it sets the stage for leaky gut. So there's actually a known connection between acid reflux or indigestion and leaky gut microbiome issues, and then back to brain and mental health. Yeah, that's a really great
interesting question. Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Terry asked us, this is a little bit might be too specific about personal health and their own journey, but if you're taking the greens powder and it has a large amount of spinach in it, is that okay to use while on high blood pressure medication?
That's a great question, but one that I wouldn't feel comfortable answering live. Yeah, that would be Terry. You're welcome to email me. We can pop it in the chat.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, Marty just asked the same thing. Can any of these natural supplements affect medications? It's very individual depending on your case, and definitely worth talking to Orsha and her team about, or your own doctor or health practitioner. So yeah, Orsha just shared her email there for you guys. If someone has suffered from a seizure and has a lesion on their frontal lobe, right frontal lobe, her MRIs for a few weeks from now is taking curcumin and ashwagandha to assist in brain swelling lowering for the next few weeks. A good idea?
No, I would actually go in and see for your baseline what the MRI shows before you start taking any supplements, just so that, because yeah, those are gonna start helping. But I personally would want to see what damage was there, and then figure out based on the MRI results what I want to be taking.
Yeah, great. There you go, Marion. Good luck. Good luck in your journey. Any other questions? We've covered them all that I can see in here so far. Those are all great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. Can you take protein powder and greens together?
Yes, you can. A lot of our clients are taking both, right? Who are busy, go.
Yeah,
and
get it all in one.
Yeah, because they do such different things. And so sometimes I work out for clients when in the day is the best to take it. For example, they might want their sleep better protein after dinner before bed, but their greens first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And like, if you're nervous about you're taking medications, it's such a valid point. The best piece of advice I can give you, just blanket, just talking to all of you on the call tonight, is with the proteins, the basic perfect protein, chocolate or vanilla, is going to be safe. If you're on medications, you want to check with the healthcare provider before you take any of the perfect protein elevated family, because there's known interactions between herbs or certain high dose vitamins or minerals. But the safest one for anyone, even child friendly, polymedicated individuals, what have you, the basic protein is a good starter if you are on medications. Otherwise, email me or talk to your doctor.
Yeah, that's great. Sherry has asked us about SIBO. It's a pretty broad question. It just says, what about SIBO? Sherry, if you have any more specifics that you're looking for, let us know. We can come back to that.
I can speak to SIBO. Yeah. SIBO stands for, it's exactly what I'm talking about, but now it's a diagnosed disease. SIBO, the letters stand for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So it's kind of what I've been alluding to in tonight's talk. I'm talking about the good bacteria, right? On the flip side, when you have SIBO, the bad ones have outgrown the good. And so you get this condition called SIBO, and it's just, it sets the stage for gut issues, brain fog, neurological health conditions. So SIBO is something I work with a lot. You can go to your doctor, you can get it diagnosed from a fecal stool test, or a breath test. If you want to treat it medically, you can take antibiotics. Sometimes it takes a few rounds to kill it. I would actually recommend that, even though I'm proudly holistic these days, but I would actually recommend killing it, hitting it as hard as possible, and then working with someone natural in the nutrition holistic space to rebuild your gut microbiome from scratch. Like that's my 2 cents, but that's the way I do it with clients. We work with their doctor, we kill it, and then we work to rebuild a healthy microbiome after the SIBO.
There we go. Hopefully that's helpful, Sherry. Wanda has asked us about prepping your gut and your body if you're going for surgery. What are some nutrition tips, things to consider there?
Okay, the biggest thing you need to know when you go for surgery is you have to discontinue some of your supplements, actually, rather than add on supplements. So when you're going for surgery, you need to stop at least 2 weeks before your surgery date anything that has any blood thinning effects, like your omega-3 or vitamin E. Those you would need to stop, and then don't start them again for 3 to 4 weeks post surgery. So that's my first piece of advice. The other thing that I would do to start prepping your gut and your brain for the effects of surgery and anesthesia is I would move towards an anti-inflammatory diet ASAP to really ensure that you come out of it and recover. It's going to help recovery from that, whatever system the surgery is on. It's going to help an anti-inflammatory diet. Yeah,
that's great advice. Karen's asked us, do the prebiotics help with relieving constipation?
Yes, prebiotic, any fiber. Here's the truth. Even cheap fiber is going to help relieve constipation, like Metamucil, right? Like old school cheap. The better quality fibers, like prebiotic fibers, are not only going to help relieve constipation now, they're going to also help your brain and other aspects, your gut, your immune system. But at a basic, any fiber will help. But the one thing to note, fiber can turn on you real fast. I always like to teach it in the way that fiber is like a broom, right? It cleans the intestines, but if you don't give it water, it turns into a rake and it can hurt you. Fiber can hurt you if you're dehydrated. So if you're planning to increase your fiber, please increase your water. I recommend 2 liters a day. I know that's a lot, especially some people come to me and they're just like, they're not drinking any water yet. We start with 1 liter. That's okay. And we work out a day. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think we've got time for about one more question, and then we're going to wrap up for tonight. I see these ones are kind of, allergy to coconut. Does Botanica have any protein powders that do not contain coconut?
No. All of them do contain coconut. But if you email me, I'm happy to help and see what else is out there that's high quality. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So thank you everyone so much. In the chat, we did include Orsha's email as well as the Neurotrition website. Botanica's also got a link here to some really great recipe ideas for smoothies and greens on the go. We do have our winter warm-up store-wide sale coming up next week, November 30th through December 2nd, 15% off store-wide. So you can take advantage of some savings and try these amazing products from Botanica. Thanks again, Orsha. Thank you, Jennifer. Everybody have a wonderful evening and take care of those guts and those brains.
Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.